Naisha, on the other hand, found herself in a complicated situation. She was in a carefree relationship with a young man named Guram, but also couldn't deny the emotions that resurfaced with Avtandil. Adding to her inner turmoil was her marriage, which had grown cold. Her husband hadn't touched her since their son was born. Hello, and welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving back into another shocking true story that reminds us how strange and unpredictable life can be. This time, the tale comes from the city of Tirelessly, Georgia. Real-life stories like these often leave us stunned. Some are bizarre, others downright cruel and unimaginable. This particular story revolves around a beautiful woman with a life full of secrets. Her choices may seem surprising, but they were shaped by the people around her and the shifting dynamics in her relationships. What happened to this woman? And what secrets does her story hold? Let's explore it all in more depth. Before we dive into the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And be sure to share this story with your friends. It's one you won't want to keep to yourself. Here's how it goes. Naisha was a stunningly beautiful woman, born in 1989 in Tirelessly, Georgia. When she was 9 years old, her family moved to Tirelessly. Raised with discipline and strong religious values, Naisha grew up understanding the importance of education and family. She was especially close to her father, Badri, a stern but caring man who prioritized faith and worship. While they were a Muslim family, they were open-minded and tolerant of other religions. After finishing university, Naisha set her sights on bigger goals. In mid-2014, she began a master's degree with the dream of pursuing a career in the United States. Her family fully supported her ambitions, proud of her determination and drive. During her studies, Naisha met a young man named Avtandil, who was her age. Calm, intelligent, and easy to be around, Avtandil quickly captured Naisha's attention. She found herself drawn to him, and it was clear he felt the same way. But there was a complication. Avtandil was a member of the Orthodox Church, and their differing religious backgrounds created a barrier between them. Despite the unspoken obstacle, the two grew closer. They studied together, watched movies, and spent time holding hands, but neither dared to confess their true feelings. Yet, they couldn't seem to stay away from one another. After a year of being close but unofficial, Avtandil finally mustered the courage to admit his feelings. He told Naisha he loved her but didn't know how their relationship could ever work. Naisha confessed she felt the same way. She couldn't imagine being apart from him. As adults, they both understood the challenges ahead. Knowing their differences were unlikely to be reconciled, they decided to part ways and try to move on. Naisha began meeting other men, and Avtandil started looking for someone of the same faith. But love has a way of lingering. By February 2015, they realized they couldn't fight their feelings any longer and decided to give their relationship a chance. They were serious about one another, and when Naisha introduced Avtandil to her family, she hoped for acceptance. Instead, her father, Badri, was furious. He believed their relationship was doomed, comparing it to oil and water, two things that simply wouldn't mix. He was convinced that Avtandil's parents would also reject the idea of their son marrying outside their faith. Despite Naisha and Avtandil's hopes, Badri refused to give his blessing. Determined, Naisha went to her grandmother in Tirelessly, hoping she could convince her father to reconsider. Her grandmother was supportive but also realistic. She pointed out that unless one of them converted, their relationship would remain a dead end. Given the strength of both families' faiths, she felt it was unlikely either would make that sacrifice. Eventually, Naisha and Avtandil accepted that their love wasn't enough to overcome their differences. Heartbroken, they ended their relationship. Avtandil moved to Sonoki to distance himself, while Naisha poured herself into her studies. Though it was painful, they believed it was the right choice for their families. Unlike Avtandil, who dropped out of school, Naisha persevered and graduated in January 2017. Shortly after, her father introduced her to Rivaz, the son of a family relative who worked for the government's food department. Rivaz was 2 years older, hardworking, and well regarded by her parents. Though her heart still ached for Avtandil, Naisha agreed to the arranged marriage. After a brief introduction of less than 3 months, she and Rivaz were married in April 2017. It wasn't a love match, but her parents trusted Rivaz's family and believed the union would provide stability for their daughter. After their wedding, Naisha and Rivaz settled into a luxury Mediterranean-style apartment on the 3rd floor in the suburbs of Kutaisi. At the time, Naisha was working in the cash office of the state bank, while Rivaz focused on his government job. Though they started their marriage on shaky ground, Naisha soon realized her husband was cold, unromantic, and a bit rigid. Over time, however, they began to understand each other and adapt to their personalities. In February 2018, the couple welcomed their first child, a healthy baby boy, which brought joy to their lives and their families. Naisha decided to quit her job to focus on raising their son, with the help of a babysitter. Rivaz adored their child but remained distant and expressionless. Whether he was happy or upset, his demeanor never changed, leaving Naisha feeling increasingly bored and disconnected in their marriage. To distract herself, Naisha began frequenting a fitness center to regain her pre-baby body. There, she met Guram, a charming gym trainer 2 years her junior, who also happened to live on the 2nd floor of their apartment building. Guram had a way with words, smooth, flirty, and full of compliments, the kind of attention Naisha craved but never received from Rivaz. After exchanging numbers, their connection deepened. Most afternoons, after their workouts, Naisha and Guram walked home together. Sometimes, she even stopped by his apartment, leaving just before her husband got home. Guram knew Naisha was married with a child, and she knew he had a girlfriend, but neither seemed to care. They simply enjoyed each other's company, content to keep things casual and secret. In June 2018, Naisha's world was shaken again. A new resident moved into the 5th floor of their apartment building, her ex-boyfriend, of Tandil. Naisha discovered this while checking the mailboxes in the basement and later confirmed it with the building management. It was indeed of Tandil, the man she had loved and lost due to their religious differences. Fate seemed to intervene on June 18, 2018, when Naisha and of Tandil bumped into each other in the apartment lobby. Surprised but happy to reconnect, they chatted and exchanged phone numbers. Soon, they began texting, catching up on each other's lives. Meanwhile, Rivaz remained indifferent, oblivious to the emotional storm brewing around him. He spent his weekends drinking with friends rather than spending time with his wife and child, leaving Naisha feeling neglected and unfulfilled. As for of Tandil, he was engaged to be married in January 2019, just 7 months away. Yet seeing Naisha again reignited old feelings. He couldn't deny the romantic spark that still lingered between them. Perhaps it was because their breakup wasn't born from betrayal, but from circumstances beyond their control. Now, Naisha found herself caught in an emotional whirlwind. She was still in a carefree, secret relationship with Guram, while her feelings for of Tandil began to resurface. At the same time, her husband Rivaz remained distant, seemingly uninterested in their marriage since the birth of their son. Their arranged marriage, it seemed, was more about fulfilling their parents' expectations than their own desires. To their families, everything seemed perfect. After all, they had given them a grandchild, and in the eyes of their parents, that was enough. But inside their home, the reality was far from perfect. Naisha and Rivaz lived like strangers, their relationship cold and distant. Ironically, at family events and gatherings, they played the part of the perfect couple flawlessly. In public, they were warm, affectionate, and gave the impression of being madly in love. But behind closed doors, the facade faded, and they returned to being two people struggling to connect in a marriage that felt more like an obligation than a partnership. On October 5, 2018, at around 8 p.m., Naisha's parents visited her apartment to see their grandchild. When they arrived, they found only the baby and the babysitter at home. The babysitter informed them that Rivaz had not yet returned from work, and Naisha was still at the gym and hadn't come back since the afternoon. After spending an hour there, Naisha's parents decided to head home. But as they walked to the parking area, they noticed Naisha's car parked in the basement. Curious, they tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. Suspicious, Badri, Naisha's father, asked the security guard on duty if Naisha's car had just arrived. the guard replied. "Oh, her car's been there since the afternoon. If she's not in her apartment, she might be on the 5th floor, in Mr. of Tandil's unit." Baudry froze for a moment. Could this really be the same of Tandil? Out of curiosity, he asked the security guard for the unit number. Determined, he went back upstairs. First, Baudry stopped by the 3rd floor to check if Naisha had returned home. The babysitter confirmed she still wasn't back. With growing frustration, he made his way to the 5th floor and rang the doorbell of the unit. Moments later, the door opened, and there stood Naisha and of Tandil together. Enraged, Baudry immediately punched both his daughter and of Tandil in the face. His anger boiled over as he shouted at Naisha, scolding her for being at her ex's apartment instead of taking care of her child. Naisha and of Tandil stood silently, unable to respond. Still fuming, Baudry stormed into the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and turned on of Tandil. Naisha screamed in fear, but her father ignored her, pointing the knife at of Tandil's chest and striking multiple times. To everyone's shock, of Tandil didn't resist or try to dodge. He seemed resigned, as if accepting the punishment. The commotion drew the attention of neighbors, who rushed in to break up the fight. Of Tandil was quickly taken to Tirelessly General Hospital, while Baudry was restrained by security and handed over to the police. As the dust settled, more shocking details began to emerge. According to the apartment's security footage, it wasn't just the 5th floor where Naisha was a frequent visitor. She was also often seen entering the 2nd floor, where Guram, her gym trainer, lived. Surveillance showed Naisha visiting both floors regularly, and her patterns raised questions among the staff. When her family pieced everything together, they realized that Naisha and Rivaz were rarely, if ever, seen together. They drove separate cars and didn't go out as a family. Neighbors assumed Naisha was a single mother because Rivaz rarely appeared at home. Surveillance cameras revealed that he often left for work before 7 a.m. and didn't return until after 10 p.m., even on weekends. At community gatherings, Naisha always attended alone. The babysitter also shared her observations. She mentioned hearing Naisha on the phone saying things like, "Okay, I'm heading to the 2nd floor now," or "I'll stop by the 5th floor later." According to her, Naisha's tone during these calls was often intimate or flirtatious. While the babysitter didn't know much about the relationship between Naisha and Rivaz, she noted that they barely spoke to each other and acted like strangers. Rivaz rarely held or interacted with their child, leaving the impression that he was merely a guest in the home. The babysitter concluded that she didn't blame Naisha for seeking happiness elsewhere. In her view, Naisha deserved to feel loved, especially in a marriage that seemed so cold and disconnected. The shocking revelations left both the family and neighbors stunned, as Naisha's double life unraveled before their eyes. A week after the incident, of Tandil began to recover and decided to move out of the apartment, choosing to live with his fiancée. Surprisingly, his fiancée forgave him, knowing about his past with Naisha. She chose to move forward despite everything that had happened. As for Guram, the gossip swirling among neighbors and the security guards made things uncomfortable for him. On top of that, his girlfriend grew upset after hearing rumors about his connection to Naisha. Guram apologized to her, insisting that his involvement with Naisha was never serious and was purely for fun. To avoid further complications, he also moved out of the apartment, distancing himself from the drama. He denied having anything to do with the incident on the 5th floor, making it clear he wanted to leave it all behind. By mid-January 2019, the trial against Mr. Baudry began at the Tirelessly High Court. His lawyer worked tirelessly to build a defense, focusing on mitigating circumstances to seek leniency. Several witnesses, including family members and relatives, testified that Baudry was a kind and gentle man who acted out of character that night. They argued that his actions were a result of a sudden emotional outburst after discovering his daughter at her ex's apartment. Interestingly, of Tandil himself refused to press charges against Baudry. Perhaps out of guilt or empathy, he admitted that the situation was partly his and Naisha's fault. Of Tandil even requested the court to release Baudry, but the prosecution decided to proceed with the case, citing legal obligations and eyewitness accounts stating that Baudry initiated the attack. As the trial continued, Badri's lawyers worked alongside of Tandil's legal team to present a new angle. They claimed that Badri had acted in self-defense, suggesting that Tandil had attacked first and that Badri was merely protecting himself. The courtroom dynamic became unusual, as neither Tandil nor Badri seemed to blame the other. Instead, they both defended each other's actions, leaving the judge and jury baffled. On February 2, 2019, the judge delivered the verdict. Badri was found not guilty and was acquitted of all charges. After the trial, Tandil assured Badri that he would completely stay away from Naisha and focus on building a new life with his fiancée. Meanwhile, Rivaz faced stern criticism from both his parents and Naisha's family. They gave him 3 months to mend his relationship with Naisha, emphasizing the importance of being present for his wife and son. Rivaz was also warned to stop prioritizing nights out with friends over spending time with his family. To everyone's surprise, Rivaz took their words to heart. He began making visible changes, becoming more attentive to Naisha and involved in their son's life. The couple even went on a second honeymoon, which helped rekindle their bond. As time passed, their relationship improved significantly, and in March 2020, they welcomed their second child. Reflecting on their journey, Naisha acknowledged that Rivaz's earlier neglect had left her feeling lonely and vulnerable, leading her to seek comfort elsewhere. However, it seemed that Rivaz had learned from his mistakes and was determined to become the loving husband and father he hadn't been before. Their family finally found the harmony they had been missing. What lessons can we learn from this story?